So what are the differences in leadership between leadership in your business and leadership in Rotary? Anyone can speak up here.
One of them you're getting paid for. In
Well,
business,
that is
paid.
true. Although being a leader in Rotary, we get paid, but not in money. We get paid in
Gratitude.
That's right. Go ahead, Elaine.
Yes, there's also, when you're working in a business, whether it's a for-profit or not-for-profit, there's an expectation that you've got you are reporting to someone, or you are going to follow some certain goals. And I know I've always said, when we're all volunteers in Rotary and all in the club, it's kind of like herding cats. And there's not sometimes as much feeling of following those directions.
So do you and Jim herd our District Governor, Tom Walker?
No.
It's more like herding the presidents.
Right. Right. Anyone else? Bill, any ideas?
Yeah, well, I have a military background, so the main thing is control. You have control. You have a mission. You have some things in a definite. It's a definite controlled atmosphere, probably in business as well as with my past experience, over people. So you can kind of move them in the direction you want to. Whether they participate in it or not, or they buy in or not. It's always better to have a buy-in. Where versus Rotary, I think, is you got to get buy-in from all the people, and they have to feel like an important part and want to be a part.
I don't know, maybe we'll get to this in a few minutes, but I would be interested, for those of you who have already been in Rotary leadership positions, if you've ever been in a situation, well, in fact, we'll ask that now. And Bill, since we can't see you, just blurt out if you've got something here. For those of you who have been in leadership positions, has there been a situation where you could just tell that the people you were supposed to be leading were either zoning out, or were not engaged, or were not paying attention, that they were kind of off on their own? And if so, how did you handle that? Anyone have any examples? Or where you had a hard time getting buy-in?
Well, this is Bill again. Coming from a large club, there's a very variance in a lot of people as to how they would like to see their meetings run, what they would like to participate in. And that proved at times a little bit difficult. Wasn't the same buy-in as I would have liked to have as president. So, right. Yeah, it became a little bit difficult, but it turned out to be a matter of explaining where we were headed and what we were doing and why we were doing it.
Great. Rick, any thoughts about leadership in business and leadership in Rotary from your standpoint?
Well, just the difference that I've seen is that with the leadership in business, people are there and motivated because, for the most part, they're employees. So they're going to do what you say because they're your employee. Where in volunteer positions, it's like Elaine said, it's a lot like herding cats. You're trying to get buy-in from the different people. You're having to sell harder because you have to convince them to do it because it's the right thing to do, not necessarily because there's a paycheck at the end.
Great. Leslie or Peter?
I agree with those guys. Primarily, it's tough in a when you're not getting paid, when it's not a business type of a thing, to get a buy-in from everyone. And I'm fairly new here at this club in Silver City, but I was a member of a much larger club back back east, and we had a terribly difficult time getting people to buy into certain things at various times during the, during the time that I was there. And we would have to shelve them or give up on them. And to their, unfortunately, I think for the, it was to their dismay, or to the hindrance of the club. But they had, they just had habits of doing things, and they didn't want to change them, as most people that have habits don't want to do.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Jim?
Yes. Well, another thing too, that in business, we at least have the opportunity to evaluate people for promotion or firing them or discipline. And there isn't that particular avenue in Rotary or in any kind of volunteer situation.
That's right.
But I think that no matter whether it's business or whether it's like Rotary, a volunteer organization, no matter what it is most beneficial to get the buy-in, because you're going to have a successful outcome if people have a vested interest in that.
Right.
May I say something, Jeff?
Yes, Cheryl, go ahead.
I think, too, that continuous contact and education is really a key in getting that buy-in. A lot of people may not be familiar with the international part of our organization, but the more they learn about it, the more they see how they're helping children or across the world, then they're more likely to buy into it.
Totally agree. The only other thing that I would add, and then move on to the next question, is that I vividly remember, by the way, before I go on, Bruce, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself since you just joined us?
I'll unmute. Hi, everybody. Yeah, this is Bruce Bortner, RLI graduate. Sort of. Well, I guess I have never been through the entire course, but I am an RLI instructor. So, and was the coordinator before Jeff for 3 years, starting in 2011. And now I'm just an AG, and I'm trying to, but I'm still an instructor. So thank you for the opportunity to observe. And I'll be teaching tomorrow night, so I'm trying to, get my ducks in a line, so to speak, and see how this goes along tonight.
Thank you for joining us, Bruce. One thing that from personal experience, I vividly remember my first meeting as president, and our club is not that large. I think we probably had 40 people at the time. And Don Chalmers, from Don Chalmers Ford, was a member of our club. And I remember looking out and seeing him. And he was just looking at me, and I've known Don for a number of years. But it kind of struck me that for the next 12 months, I'm going to be the leader of a group of people that includes Don Chalmers. And it scared me a little bit, even though Don was very nice. But it dawned on me that a lot of people in the room are already leaders. So here we are, leaders of leaders, which kind of comes with its own challenges, depending upon their personality styles. Don was wonderful, but I did get that little intimidation. And I would occasionally make eye contact with him to see if he seemed to smile when I would say something where I wanted his buy-in. So, okay, excellent. What I'm going to do now is we're going to do a little brainstorming. And for this exercise, I'm going to share a little notepad. And I'm going to give control to Cheryl to help me take notes.
Okay.
What we want to look at are characteristics of good leaders, and let's assume for the next 5-10 minutes we're focused on Rotary leaders, not business leaders. So in terms of Rotary, characteristics of good leaders and subsequently characteristics of poor leaders. Let's start with the good leaders. What are some characteristics, either your own or others that you observed from other leaders in Rotary that are good characteristics?
Availability.
Availability, okay. And since we're sharing a screen, I can't see all the hands go up, so just just interject your responses.
Good listener.
I'm sorry?
Good listener.
Good listen. That's ironic, isn't it?
Motivation.
Motivation.
Motivational.
Motivation. Yep.
Seems to me that a very clear goal and the ability to explain that goal is paramount.
Yes.
Organized.
Not working very fast today.
Sorry.
Did the dog have an answer?
Yeah.
He's contributing.
How about leads by example?
By example. Okay. What else?
I also, good leaders are good at involving others.
Yes.
They're brainstorming characters.
Is that Tom?
Yes, it is. Tom.
Yeah.
Hi,
Tom, just very quickly introduce yourself.
Tom Bates. I'm retired. I was city manager of Silver City, and I'm retired Army.
Awesome.
And I'm currently a deacon in the Episcopal Church of the Good Shepherd.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. Okay. More characteristics of good leaders.
We're doing. He's asking people for input. That's what that is. Yeah.
Bill, do you have any that are not on the list?
Let's see. Purpose-driven.
Purpose-driven, like that.
Purpose driven. This is delayed, so.
Sorry. Tom, or anyone from Silver City, did you want to add anything to this list?
I'd like to add integrity, honesty.
Integrity and honesty. Yes. So since we're talking about leadership, is that an alpha dog?
No. No. He's an early warning system.
What about must-like dogs?
Yes. Anything else on the good leaders' characteristics that you want to add?
I would say passionate.
Passionate. Absolutely. Anything else?
How about entertaining?
That helps.
I like that one.
Please.
Ah. Anything else?
May I add compassionate?
Sure.
It's kind of a shorthand for caring about people.
That's right.
I think half the time when I was president, I was saying, I feel your pain. And the other half the time I was saying, but do you feel my pain? And we're like, no, we don't feel your pain. Anything else? All right, let's take a look at poor leaders. Now, we can obviously use the opposites of the words we have above, but maybe think about without naming names and just thinking back to whether it be Rotary or in other environments, what did you notice about people that just were not effective leaders? What would be things that stood out about them?
Absent.
Now,
Yeah.
are you referring to physically absent, or does that also mean like mentally absent?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Fuzzy thinkers.
Fuzzy thinkers. And that's fuzzy thinkers is a nice, perhaps opposite of having clear goals.
That's
You
right.
may have clear goals, but if you communicate fuzzy or you
Can't
can't
make up your mind.
then it's really hard to get the buy-in.
Right.
Can't make up your mind.
Okay. What else?
Feeling of self-importance.
Yes. And Cheryl, this is a very similar list that we had last night, isn't it?
Very similar.
Yep. What else?
Disorganized.
Disorganized.
Whoops. Fuzzy disorganized.
Okay.
Is it okay, Jeff, for me to just keep jumping in?
Absolutely.
I'm thinking there's something that I would characterize as being unintentional, which is kind of like just doing the next thing and the next without paying attention to where you're going.
So going through the motions?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. It's kind of hard to go through the motions and be passionate at the same time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
I can't get my mouse to work here.
You're doing great.
Yeah, we are trying this shifting control to others because that's part of our test of the software.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
How about poor follow-up?
Poor follow-up. Yes. So perhaps they're making commitments, but they're not following up on their commitments, as an example.
Or giving orders and not following up to make sure that they're implemented.
That they're getting done. Yep. Okay. There's one I would like to add that I'm not seeing yet, if everyone's okay with that. Disrespectful.
Yes.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Trying to do too much. The lack of delegation.
Yes.
And a concomitant lack of focus.
Lack of focus. Yes. So this is a great list. A lot of characteristics here. There is a question in this section in your notebooks. It's actually the last question. So I'm going to go a little bit out of order. Question 9 says, why is vision an important quality for a Rotary leader? So Cheryl, if you would just add vision after compassionate, or maybe at the top. So why is vision an important quality for a Rotary leader?
Well, you have to know where the club is going.
Right. Otherwise, we're just going through the motions, aren't we?
Right.
Vision is a source of passion
Yes.
and motivation and clear goals.
Yes. And someone had mentioned, maybe it was with the clear goals, that not only is it important for the leader to have a vision, but to be able to share that vision with the membership. So whether it's through communication or some other means, that vision has to be something that is shared amongst the membership, right? If they're going to get buy-in, it's not, this is my vision and it doesn't matter how the rest of you feel. That vision has to somehow be agreed to by the group, correct?
Yeah.
They at least have to buy into your vision.
That's right. Yeah, and I like buy-in because buy-in doesn't mean they have to love it.
That's right.
But if they don't like it, they can actually subconsciously even fight where the club is going. They don't agree.
The leader also has to be able to explain that goal or that vision. And if they cannot explain it effectively, then you're not going to get the buy-in.
That's exactly right. And sometimes it's hard to explain a vision. You know, it's like you see something, but it's hard to maybe put it into words, or, you know, how am I going to explain that? So I think an effective leader has the ability to translate that vision to others, to reinforce it. So anything else about this list or about vision in particular? Okay.
It's like to mention that without vision, the people perish.
Wow.
That's actually a quote. I think it might be in the Bible. Yes. It is. Isn't that great?
That is great. So say it again. Without vision, there is no purpose?
No, without vision, the people perish.
Oh, that's even wow.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm going to ask Jiminy Lane, since you work so closely with Tom, and this is not specifically about Tom per se, but given your role as managing operations, what do you see in terms of how the district leadership has and translates and communicates its vision? What do you, since you're kind of in the inner circle there, how does that work?
Well, that's okay. First of all, I don't know that we're in the inner circle. Secondly, our job is to really schedule the district governor, not to provide that vision, and that is his job. We do, however, provide him with input so that he can get an idea of what's going on in each club, and then he can tailor his view and his vision in a way that will be most receptive by that club. And so he has to be on his toes at each club, because each club turns out to be really quite different from any other club in the district. And so he may have a single vision, but he may use different words and emphasize different things as he discusses that vision at each club.
So maybe we should add something to the good leaders characteristics. And it's not, you know, I was looking at good listener, but this isn't exactly the same, but you need to know your membership, know your audience, right?
Yes.
What's gonna motivate them, what's gonna drive them. So the more Tom knows, since he's not a member of these various clubs, the more he can tailor his message.
Yes.
He was outstanding at our club last Thursday. I was so impressed at his leadership ability and his ability to actually tell a story to really grab his audience. It was amazing. I enjoyed it so much.
Well, you know, before Tom was district governor, when he was foundation chair, he was also one of the RGA facilitators, and one of the few people that can clearly communicate how the foundation works So
Right.
he clearly has the ability to take, complex material and explain it fairly simply. So he's excellent at that. So
Has anybody else had an opportunity to hear him speak yet?
I heard him at Ryola. He was very, very good there too.
yes.
And yes, this is Bill, and he did a really good job at the Rio Rancho Club.
Yes. I think he's about a third of the way through all the clubs in the district. So God bless him.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and stop the share. Thank you for the brainstorming. Okay. There's one or two other things we want to cover. We've got about 10 minutes before we take a 5-minute break if we need it. A number of you talked about motivation. So as a leader, some of us are naturally motivational. Some of us are not naturally motivational, but whether we are or we're not, we have to get buy-in from the membership, which means somehow we need to motivate them. We have to get them excited and engaged and so on. So how do we motivate people? How do we get them passionate and excited and engaged about things that we as the leaders want to be able to do where we need that buy-in? What are some techniques that you've either seen or done to get people motivated?
I have seen that if you do not involve the majority of the members of the club, if not all of them, you will have a problem. You really have to get not just buy-in, but you have to get the action. You have to get the wheels running under the vehicle. And so you really have to get everybody involved. And you may have to divide it up into a piece and assign somebody a piece that they really clearly understand and feel like they can make that contribution. And as they can do that, then you're really like a symphony conductor, bringing all of that together and making that motion go in pretty much one direction toward the ultimate goal.
Excellent point. Any other input on that?
This is Bill, and it's a good idea to, there's one tool out there, and it's called strategic planning, to get your leadership and whatever members want to participate before your term or whatever, to generally figure out where your club is going to be headed or what your main objectives are. And then to explain it.
Yeah.
Talk it all the time.
I'm going to go a little bit out of protocol here because we do have our colleagues from the other districts joining us. Karen does not have a microphone, but I'm going to ask Diana, do you have any additional input from your experience about how you or others that you've observed, how people get motivated by effective leadership?
I think for me, communication is one of the biggest defects sometimes within a club, because it seems to me that, I think we all know that if we stand up in front of the club and say, okay, we need volunteers, expect people to put their hand up, they are simply not going to do that. But if you go to them and say, hey, Jeff, I really need your help on Saturday. Can you come along? Because, this is a really tough thing and I'm not getting enough volunteers. I'd love you to be there. It makes so much difference. Your method of communication and a lot of one-on-one where necessary. Communication to me as a general thing is terribly important.
Can I say something, Jeff?
Yes.
That is so true, Diana, because I think the whole time I was president, I didn't have anybody that I went up and asked face-to-face turn me down. Or they might have had a suggestion for me of someone else, but it was very rare. But if I asked for a show of hands, I wasn't going to get them, especially from the back table, you know?
So I wanted to do a follow-up to this question, and it's not in your guide per se, but it kind of fits into this notion of motivation and vision and all of that. We've spent a lot of time in Rotary, I would say at least in the last couple of years, trying to reconcile change. You know, we're hearing from Rotary that they're making changes, whether it's to membership or the future vision for the foundation, that they're making changes. If you're a leader and you know, or it's part of your vision, that there needs to be some changes made, and you're trying to get that motivation and engagement and excitement from the membership, but they're not necessarily interested in change, how do you make that happen?
What? A lot of people would like to know.
That's why we're interacting. Any thoughts or ideas?
That's a good one.
Oh, I think that if you're going to get anyone to make a change like that, Jeff, in my opinion, you've got to be excited yourself. And you have to learn enough about it to understand what's going on and look at the positive. Because if you're going to concentrate on the negative, and you're going to get negative feedback, and you're not going to get support.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
I think, oh, excuse me.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Peter.
I think what Cheryl was saying just recently, that, you know, being able to talk to people one-on-one and reach an understanding is really important in any kind of leadership thing, and getting people motivated. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it might take, but especially in larger clubs, you'll get these little cliques, and maybe you go to individuals that are, you know, like leading those cliques or important in those groups, and kind of coming to an understanding with them and seeing if you can get places that way.
Rick, what size is the Grants Club, out of curiosity?
We have about 24 members.
And is it pretty much, are there, how long have you been a member?
I've been in Grants for 3 years.
Okay. So in the 3 years, have you seen leaders come in and want to make some changes to things that the club is doing, or is it pretty much on a smooth forward path and things are pretty much consistent every year?
Well, the club that we have right now is new enough, because the year before I came in, the club only had 7 or 8 members.
Oh.
And so it's really grown since I've been there. So a lot of us are on a movement forward to try and increase the club. But
Wonderful.
the one thing I've noticed, just like in business, is that as the leader, you're not necessarily the person who's going to implement change just because you're trying to push it. You have to identify what's referred to as a change agent.
Yes.
Somebody who's going to have full buy-in and be able to push it through to the entire membership.
That is so true. That is absolutely true. We just had someone join us.
Yes. I'm Marcy Ellum from District 6990, but I'm sitting in because I'm going to be working with District 7020.
Oh, awesome. Thank you
Yes.
for joining us.
No, I understand I'm supposed to mute myself after I introduce myself and then turn off my camera.
Yes, although occasionally we're asking you all questions, but just to kind of make it simpler, yes, that would be wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we just have a couple of minutes left. One other thing that I think also helps when there's change that the leaders want to bring about, and this kind of goes to Rick's point to some degree, is that if there are people in the club that can help kind of promote that change, so whether they're change agents or people that have a lot of sway, if you can get them on board, then you're not doing it all yourself. So if there's people in the club that everyone kind of looks to, maybe they're charter members or something like that, if you can get buy-in from them, then it may be easier for that entire group to help get buy-in from the larger club. So there may be like some very strategic people out there that can really help kind of carry the message if they can be identified.
Yeah, I think in marketing that's referred to as the opinion leaders. And so what you want to do is build your momentum and find those that are going to be with you to change the quickest, and then try to build your momentum by bringing more of those people on.
Excellent. All right, well, it is about 6:50. So we are going to take a 5-minute break. We will come back at 5 minutes till 7, at which point Cheryl will take over. So 5-minute break, folks.